Hi, grade 12. I just wanted to give you a very quick introduction to the business cycle to help you go through and make your notes on this topic. The business cycle is a very simple diagram that very rarely comes up for the IB, but it's basically showing how each business or each economy would function over time. And it has a very simple axis of real GDP with time, and it shows dips and peaks and the constant movement towards it. You can see the words in each textbook often differ, so there's different words for recovery and boom and recession and trough, depending on the textbook. But the key idea is that you need to label the phases. A contraction of the economy, where the economy is slowing down, is the period from a boom to a trough, or a recession. Depression. And then from the depression to the next peak is the expansion, when the economy is getting bigger. The second recovery is usually at a higher level than the first, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You can see here that there's a general trend over time of upward movement, of increase of real GDP. Sometimes you can see here, this one here is called a slump instead of a trough, and the peaks and the booms flow through over time. Typical characteristics of each phase. In a boom, you have high prices and high profits. Recession or downturn, profits and prices decline. And a recession is defined as two quarters or consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. The depression or the slump or the trough or the bust, that's the bottom point. The prices are at the lowest level and the contraction ends. The upturn or the recovery, the profits rise, and normal times are relatively static. It shows a relative flattening of the curve. It could be either with a recovery or after a boom. These are the characteristics of a recovery and showing general things that happen in that phase. And the boom is the highest point, where the prices are highest and the growth is highest. A recession is, of course, the slowing down or the bottom. A contraction can last a different period of time depending on the year and the time period. On average, it's around about 11 months, and the expansion is usually longer, on average of 44 months. There are different times in history when they lasted even longer. The Great Depression was in decline for 43 months instead of 11 months. Okay, and since World War II, most of them go about 3 to 5 years peak to peak. And so you can see here, these are the same characteristics I mentioned for the typical characteristics. These are the good things about each phase and the bad things about each phase. No economy stays in one phase all the time, so it's just a matter of getting into the next phase. This would be a symbol of potential output, this long-term trend line, rather than actual growth. You can see when you dip below your potential, that's a recessionary gap. And when you go above your potential, that is an expansionary gap or an inflationary gap. As you can see, if you turn this into real GDP data, they follow similar flows and charts. But a fall in growth is not the same as a fall in GDP and therefore a recession. So this is change of GDP rather than fall in GDP. Here you can see there's the Brazilian real GDP over time, and you can see here are the business cycle. You can see it in their growth. These are the growth forecasts right now, to 2023, and they just show the general trends. This business cycle diagram was in a higher level paper in the past, and you can read through the questions here. It's more of a higher level question because it uses the term automatic stabilizers, but it gives you an idea of what it should look like. The IB had their business cycle labeled like this, which I think is a little bit incomplete, but you can see from this mark scheme what they expect. This is the task you'll finish after doing this.